Alex Bregman has officially opted out, and he might not be the last one. Let's bring in our Red Sox expert, especially in the offseason, Jackson Roberts of Sports Illustrated, joining the show. Jackson, we kind of not surprised that Alex Bregman has opted out, but he has made it official. We talked to you about this a few weeks ago, wondering if anything's changed here. Where does re-signing Bregman rank on your priority list for the Red Sox in this offseason?
Yeah, and thanks for the plug there, Cam. It's good to know the Google Explore tab is doing its job.
Huge for you, man. Huge for you.
I think Bregman, if he's not priority one, he's priority 1A. And the problem with, answering a question like this is there's so many different ways that, the permutations of the Red Sox roster could play out for next season. If you lose Bregman, but you bring in, say, a Kyle Schwarber and maybe, you reconfigure the infield a little bit and all of a sudden Marcelo Meyer's playing third and you get a new second baseman, then all of a sudden losing Bregman doesn't look that bad. But if you lose Bregman and the best you can do is like replacing him with Eugenio Suarez at third base, then you're going to be sitting in a lot of angry Red Sox fans this offseason. So it's kind of a roundabout answer, but it's also the type of thing where everything, like the offseason is such a complex puzzle, and putting everything in context matters so much that right now it seems like losing Bregman would be the end of the world. And maybe it would be the end of the world, but at the same time, there's always a pivot you can make. It's just a question of whether or not the Red Sox have the wherewithal and the resources to make that pivot this offseason.
And let's look deeper into that. Let's play out the worst case scenario. Okay, the Edmund Fitzgerald is at the bottom of Gitchagumi, and Alex Bregman is playing somewhere else on opening day in 2026. If that is the case, in your opinion, what are the Red Sox telling the fans? How are they justifying that Alex Bregman's not here?
I mean, Craig Breslow is going to say something that takes 600 words to basically say we didn't want to pay this guy when he's 35, 36 years old. Yeah. And in reality, it's John Henry and whoever else that's not greenlighting that expenditure. But there isn't really a good justification for it if they don't replace his offensive. It's not just they need to replace his offensive production. I want to strike back against that. Now they have, they didn't have a 30 home run guy last year. They were 15th in the league in home runs. They struck out more than any other team with runners in scoring position. This team needs a lot of offensive help to truly consider itself a contender. And that especially becomes true if you watch this postseason and you see the pesky at-bats from a team like the Blue Jays, who the Red Sox are going to have to contend with for many years to come. They've got to figure out, that middle to bottom third of the order, how they're not just going to be a walking strikeout machine next year. And losing Bregman is one piece of that, but you can't just run back the same offense or you're going to be in a similar 88 to 92 win boat and not necessarily have, a scary group come playoff time. Obviously, getting Roman Anthony healthy for the playoffs will be a big key, but there's at least one more big bat needed before you factor in potential Bregman leaving.
And to add to that, needing to add to not just replace, but to add to what you had last year, you're also not going to have a first half of Rafael Devers next year. Like that is something that gets kind of forgotten when we talk about the overall stats of this team. And obviously it was pretty glaring, their power outage towards the end of the season. But
23rd in homers after he left.
I mean, you just can't go on like that. I know pitching wins, but as we saw with Toronto and the Yankees and the Dodgers and, of course, Seattle, like the long ball still plays in October, and you need that. And the Red Sox are clearly very very not near the top, I guess the best way to put that, of that part of the game for sure. And Alex Bregman can absolutely add to that. Yeah. Looking at the potential replacement, you talk about a pivot. Marcelo Meyer might have to play third. There's a good chance that if Trevor Story's back, we'll talk about it in a minute, he could be playing second base. One of the names that is going to be out there, Bo Bichette. Just homered in Game 7 of the World Series, Jackson. Don't know if you saw that. His team lost, but he homered. And Tyler Milliken had this great tweet out there this morning. 35 games at Fenway Park. He's slashing 329, 382, 524, and 907. 6 homers, 10 doubles, 30 RBI, 149 WRC plus. There's going to be a big tag attached to Bo Bichette this offseason. Is that someone that could be an outside candidate for the Red Sox to consider?
It could be, although I don't see him signing for less than Alex Bregman. So the only difference there would be if they think that he's going to age better / the fact that he's 4 years younger is a big consideration for them and makes them willing to pay, say, Bo Bichette when he's 34 versus Alex Bregman when he's 36. Because otherwise, I think you're talking about similar offensive impact, and you know what Alex Bregman's defensive impact is. You don't know what Bo Bichette's is unless you're going to leave him at shortstop, which I do not recommend because he's the worst qualified shortstop in the majors. So he's going to move to either second or third for his next team. If the Red Sox signed him and kept Story but did not keep Bregman, that's a weird sentence to say, but let's just say that it's a Bichette, Story, Meyer infield next year. I would probably line it up with Bichette at second, and then Story at short, Meyer at third. But it's a tough call either way. That's not a projected good defensive infield.
That was my next thing. Does that make you bet? There were some okay defensively infield wise last year, but pretty bad towards the end of the season. Does that make your infield defense any better, or does it make it worse?
I think it makes it maybe slightly worse, depending on like the value prop of swapping out Bregman's third base defense for Meyer's second base defense. But either way, like you're talking about like a pretty minimal margin, and Bregman is your best defender on the infield as of right now. So I really don't see the upside in like, it's really just if you think Bo Bichette's bat's going to age better than Bregman's over the next like 6 years, and he's going to cost probably like more per year and also at least one additional year. So, and trust me, I've watched Bo Bichette go 5 for 5 at Fenway. I've watched him, pepper the monster on Garrett Crochet's first pitch of the game. Like he's an impact hitter, and he'd be really nice to add to the lineup. But the logic of like swapping him out for Bregman, it's really just kind of like a which flavor do you prefer? It's not projecting to make your team better or worse. Like it really is like, I think reasonable people could disagree on it, which is why it's fun. But at the same time, it's going to be like harder, I guess, to pry him from Toronto than it just would be to re-sign Bregman. So there'd have to be like a very specific preference from the front office to go Bichette over Bregman.
Talking with Jackson Roberts, Sports Illustrated, covering the Red Sox, and is all in on this offseason and what could be a big one, but that leaves room for plenty of disappointment for Red Sox fans as well. We knew Alex Bregman was going to opt out. It all ends, and so now the clock is ticking for Trevor Story, another infielder who just kind of has this sneaky opt-out. Not a lot of people were thinking about it last year, but then he has a pretty good season. He leads the Red Sox in RBI and home runs, which is good for him. Not something to write home about with this offense maybe, but where are you feeling that – do you feel that Trevor Story could actually opt out of this and hit the free agent market after one good season here?
I'm not ruling out the possibility altogether. I think that – the thing that helps his case is that it's a weak shortstop market. It's basically Bo Bichette, who's not a shortstop, and Ha-Sung Kim, who I don't think is a shortstop in an ideal world either. I think he's
and Trevor Story might not be one for the Red Sox next year.
No, and I think the market for teams that want Trevor Story is maybe less than the people who are really, gung-ho about the possibility of him opting out would indicate. I'm not seeing like what team is going to be all in on a 33-year-old shortstop whose defense is declining and who's had a ton of injuries. Obviously, him staying healthy was huge for the Red Sox this year, and if he stays, they hope it happens again. But are you banking on it? I don't think that's necessarily something that's safe to do. So as far as like the odds of him opting out go, I would probably put at like 15% right now. And it's, we'll know soon whether or not he's actually planning to do it. I've seen it pointed out. I think Red Sox Stats pointed it out first, and then Chris Cotillo wrote about it earlier this week. But the fact that he switched agencies after he signed with the Red Sox is an interesting angle. Back in 2022, and maybe that 6-year, $140 million wasn't what he thought he was going to get. And I think it was, a fair amount less than most people would have projected at the time. But I don't necessarily think that applies to now either. He's worth what he's worth now. And I think if he entered the open market, he'd probably get basically the same contract he has now. And I also think it's, important for him to try and stay in Boston and win it, with the team that he's been with for the last 4 years, having gone through all the lows. So yeah, my prediction is that it won't happen, but I wouldn't be completely shocked if it did.
It does feel like almost best option for both sides, but you do bring up an interesting point. Like with the shortstop market, Baseball America is projecting him at 4 years, 110 million if he goes to the open market. And like, that's probably not worth it. Right. But with a
who's doing that?
I'm just saying, I don't know, man. That's what I saw it. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. Like for a guy past 30 with an extensive injury history at this point. And like, look, that was the best case scenario, what you got for him last year, even though it was a pretty bad first 2 months. And like, what was it? 25 and 96 with 30 stolen bases. That's a heck of a year for Trevor Story. Is it 4 by 110?
Yeah. That's, well, these shortstops, they fall off a cliff, you know, like if you remember, like it's been a while since we've had a successful everyday shortstop over 35 years old. And you think back to like, I think the perfect example is Brandon Crawford earlier this decade. In 2021, Brandon Crawford finished 4th in National League MVP voting out of nowhere. And it seemed like he was having this late career resurgence. 2 years later, he was basically out of the league. And he ended up playing a really sad, like 20 games for the Cardinals last year, but he really should have retired after 2023. And now I believe 2023 was his age 34 season, but it might have been 35. And either way, it's like, this stuff happens fast. So
it's like a blue lobster.
I don't see any team giving him a 3rd year necessarily, let alone a 4th.
It seemed crazy to me. Crazy. They also, Baseball America had Bregman, by the way, at 6 for 180, which sounds like what Bregman's going for. That sounds like what he would opt out for. Whether someone
does he get a 6th year is basically the determining factor for me.
4 or 5 seems pretty comfortable, but 6, that's a lot. I do want to talk about one guy who opted out, but maybe the Red Sox opted out of him. Lucas Giolito also hitting free agency. Doesn't sound like there's going to be a qualifying offer there. It's not crazy from what we've thought about. How much does that kind of affect how the Red Sox look at starting pitching in this offseason, or does it affect it at all?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that like them turning down the mutual option necessarily means that the qualifying offer is not coming. I still think there's a better than 50% chance that it's not coming, but I'm less sure about that than I am about Story. So, you know, it's something to monitor in the next couple of days here, unless there's reporting in the last couple hours that I'm not up to date with. But anyway, I do think the most likely scenario is that he ends up leaving. But again, I wouldn't be shocked if they try to broker a reunion one way or another. But basically, like the long and short of it is Lucas Giolito probably outperformed his projections this year, but that's what you need to make the playoffs, you know, and especially in today's day and age where there's so many starting pitching injuries, him giving them like 2.5 months of really good quality starts was, I think, one of the biggest X factors to them making the playoffs. So if he does leave, and I do think that's the most likely scenario, you have to, I think it's a pretty clear barometer, and it's one that people have talked about. You have to get another starter that projects to be better than Brian Bayo. You have to be able to slot someone in between Crochet is the 1 and Bayo is the 3. And then you can feel pretty comfortable about the other guys you have coming back. I wouldn't say adding that person makes it, you know, unpalatable to bring Giolito back. I think you could work it so that you have Giolito as your 3 or 4 and keep Bayo and trade or sign for someone else. But I think the more important thing is getting that other person. And then Giolito could be kind of a nice bonus piece if he stays. But there's obviously other ways to use somewhere around the $20 million per year that he's probably going to get on the open market. So the real upshot here is Giolito leaving just only increases the need that they already had, which was to add a number 2 guy.
Yeah, and possibly a number 4 as well. And obviously, I think I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said earlier if Bregman wasn't option 1 or priority 1, it's 1A. I'm guessing priority 1 would be that number 2 starting pitcher. Right?
100%.
Yeah. Looking at, we just came off a great World Series, Jackson. Like phenomenal, must-see TV kind of stuff. And you wrote a nice article again for Sports Illustrated about what that series means for the Red Sox. Because as a Red Sox fan, you're watching and you're pissed off for a couple of different reasons. First off, there's a team in your division who you took 2 out of 3 against in a huge series in September on the road. You thought you were better than them at a couple of points during the season. That was the team the Dodgers were playing. And then you look at that Dodgers team and you see Mookie Betts, ring number 3. Kike Hernandez, almost the GOAT of the World Series, but Andy Paz catches the ball. Yamamoto, you were in on that. Blake Snell, you were in on that. There's so many different ways you can circle and look at that Dodgers team and be like, man, they're just doing all the things the Red Sox don't do. So from a Red Sox standpoint, Jackson, what was the biggest standout to you in that great 7-game World Series?
There's so many. Yeah. I mean, I think the number one thing is the Dodgers are willing to go the extra mile that the Red Sox haven't been over the last few years. And even if they're not going to, hand out these $400 to $500 million payrolls with all this deferred money, that the Dodgers are clearly willing to do and now can afford to do for perpetuity because Ohtani mints money for that franchise. It's just like, yeah, it's the little things, and the inverse of, all those guys that are on the Dodgers that we talked about there is the fact that the Red Sox took, for lack of a better term, the sloppy seconds from the Dodgers at the trade deadline this year. They said, yeah, give us Dustin May. We'll give you the prospect that we got in the Rafael Devers trade for a guy who has a 4.85 ERA at the time, who's about to hit 100 innings and hasn't ever thrown 100 innings in his career. We'll take that guy who's almost guaranteed to get hurt at some point in the next few weeks. And here's 2 actual outfield prospects for him. And meanwhile, if he stays in LA, he's probably getting DFA'd in August or September because all those guys that were on the injured list, Glasnow, Snell, Ohtani, came back and pitched down the stretch. So Dustin May is going to get a World Series ring from the Dodgers, but the Red Sox are the ones who pay the price for it. So that annoys you. It's like the Dodgers have just been a step or 2 ahead of the Red Sox, but they're always thinking along the same lines. And then the Dodgers are also willing to make the hard decisions when the Red Sox aren't. Mookie Betts has 3 rings as a Dodger now. He's going into the Hall of Fame with the Dodgers logo on his cap.
Oh, God.
That's got to annoy you.
It does.
Even if you're happy for Mookie Betts, that has to annoy you at this point. You hate to keep bringing that trade up, but that's the reality of the scenario.
But we're living in it. We're seeing it all the time. It's crazy. Who would have thought the Dodgers weren't just willing to get rid of starting pitchers at the trade deadline? That's crazy. It's almost like there's something wrong with them. And the other thing, too, you kind of said it in there. It's like the Dodgers, they bring in Shohei Ohtani, or they bring in Freddie Freeman, and they're not like, oh, shit, we got to trade Mookie Betts. We got to get some alignment. They bring in Shohei Ohtani, and they don't say, oh, shit, we got to get rid of Freddie Freeman, which it feels like the Red Sox finally spend money, and they go and get Bregman, and halfway through the season, it's, we got to get rid of Rafi Devers. We got to. You can't pay that $30 million. So anyway, frustrating stuff. But what's not frustrating is reading Jackson's work. Jackson, let the people know where they can find your work and how they can keep up all offseason long.
Yeah, hopefully, like Cam says, my work will come to you somehow.
It'll show up on your doorstep.
That's how all this internet stuff works. But yeah, obviously, Red Sox on SI. I'm on there. My good friend Patrick McAvoy's on there as well. We're covering the Red Sox all day, every day for the rest of the offseason. I'll be back on the Cam show at some point, I'm sure, because there will be massive transactions at some point this offseason. And that's what builds championships is, what are the Red Sox willing to do and what can they actually accomplish? So stay tuned for all of it.
A lot of times you win it in the winter. Jackson, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely have you on again, but appreciate your time as always. Oh, sorry to cut you off. Sorry. There he goes. Jackson Roberts, Red Sox on SI. We will definitely have him again, break it down this Red Sox offseason. Let us know what you think about this Bregman opt-out, what Trevor Story is going to do. I find that very, very fascinating in terms of how 2026 looks for the Red Sox. Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel as we come at you every weekday live at noon Eastern time on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcasts, as well as your lunchtime alternative to Boston Sports Talk Radio.